everybody. Welcome in today. This is not your normal Tuesday show. We will not be doing Comedy Spot games or the Bad Flick show today. What happened is we had our big day of giving a couple weeks ago where the Comedy Spot raised thousands of dollars to help support our organization. And we had a bunch of different teams and different groups sponsor the Comedy Spot and make their own fundraisers. And oh, my light just went out. So what I did is I purchased a tarot and astrology reading from the wonderful Mouse Stuff group, and they're going to do that for you live today. I'm going to kick it over to them to explain what's going to actually happen when I fix my light.
Hi, this is Gwen and Carrie.
Hello.
We are from the Mouth Stuff team. I am the resident astrologer, and Carrie is a resident tarot reader. With astrology, astrology is a form of divination that uses the observation and interpretation of all the different planets and their placements to predict what happens to humans on Earth. And tarot is also a divination method.
It can be, yes. And we do have to be careful because there is some cultural appropriation that happens when particularly white women like me are like, I'm a tarot reader. But the way I sort of approach tarot that I've understood is more culturally accepted is to kind of look at like the present moment, like what's actually happening in someone's life right now, because these cards are kind of based on archetypes. So natural human experiences that everyone has. And we're just kind of excited to do this live. Queen and I have done this with our show, Mercury Reprobates, and we've also done it on a podcast called Celestial Small Talk. But this is the first time we get to do it live on air with Dayna. And so she is going to be the most wonderful guinea pig that there is to sort of receive, and look at her lights back on, so she's a tech wizard as well. So we're basically just going to kind of look at not only Dayna's birth information to kind of see what the stars have in store for her, but then what the cards are saying about how that's playing out in sort of her present day life.
Awesome. And we have a question in from Kendra. Kendra wants to know, is Pluto a planet? And I'm sure that probably...
Astronomically, it is not considered a planet, but we still love Pluto. It's very important. And I will talk more about Pluto in a little bit too.
Yeah, Pluto actually does have a big like effect on you. It just only happens like once in your life because it takes a very long time.
It takes a really long time to make a circle. Nobody lives all the way. Nobody has a Pluto return except for the United States. We're going
that was this year, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why like everything's on fire right now. It's because of Pluto. So even if it's not a planet, it's still wreaking havoc.
So Kendra has a question. So Kendra wants to know, is this supposed to be comedy or serious?
Oh, yeah.
So the readings are going to be completely serious. Like this is actual real readings and my real birth chart. But we're comedians, so we're going to make even real stuff is funny. Like
yeah. Why can't it be both?
Yeah. Right. So it's going to be comedy, but it's going to be real. So I don't think serious is the right word, but it's going to be authentic.
I mean, just like with improv, like we're grounded in real stories, right? Like true stories. So the true is the stars, the true is the cards, and then we make comedy out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
wonderful. Before we get started, I have a surprise for Dayna.
Ooh.
I made this morning, and this is your. Oh, there it is. This is your chart illustrated.
Oh, thank you.
Like a watercolor illustrated. It has all of your signs, your big six, and the meanings.
I'll be your Vanna White.
The meaning behind them, and yeah, this is your silhouette. Sorry for stalking you and taking this picture from your profile.
Oh no, that's fine. Like just reading some of those words in there, I'm like, holy shit, yeah.
Nice. Oh, what stuck out to you? Because that helps.
Like pretty much everything, but like, depth, loyalty. I'm thinking a lot about like that. Wittily, I like that because I like to think I'm pretty witty. Variety and intellectual conversation, that's definitely me. That's a big part of me. Yeah, I mean, this all really Like, wow.
Okay, and what's really cool is, I mean, I know the tiniest bit about this, but you have so many things in the same sign. So that's interesting to start with.
Yeah, because usually a regular person.
Dayna's a regular person. She's just kind of an alien.
They have. Typically, we have a lot more variety in like the big six. Like I have Leo and Cancer and Virgo and actually that's it. She has way more. But anyways, you have a lot of concentrated energy is what I'm seeing here with Scorpio and Gemini. Yeah, I'm just gonna hand this to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm so excited about this. This is beautiful.
Yeah, so consider it I guess, early birthday present, right?
Present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missy says that you did the show a couple weeks ago, it was live streamed, and the person birthday was one day after hers. Ooh, so we have Missy seen this before. Awesome.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
So with the stellium, which is the concentrated energies, because you have a lot of planets in Gemini and a lot of planets in Scorpio.
That's so funny because my family like has a bunch of Geminis and a bunch of Scorpios, and that's like our big fight because we're pretty much evenly matched. And then there's like the random outliers that are like, don't get to play.
Don't get to play because like big energies, right?
Yeah.
What it means for me when I interpret somebody who has a lot of energy in something is like you don't have you don't have a problem with self-assurance. Like you kind of know who you are. There's no questioning that. And I like that because I am not so for sure. I'm walking conflict. Let me see.
Well, while you're talking about that, so when Queen's talking, I'm usually like sitting here just shuffling the cards, and either like a card will jump out, or it'll get stuck to my hand, or I'll just pull if it feels right. So the card that came out was the Page of Wands, and I know that it's not very big for our viewers at home, but wands are one of the 4 suits in the tarot. They're sort of grounded in fire, and they have to do with sort of our creativity, our passion, our spark, if we really want to think about fire. And pages are one of the court cards. And court cards are, I like that. Yeah, the flickering lights being spooky. Court cards tend to be sort of like these big expressions in our lives, and pages are kind of like the dreamers. So I'm just curious if you've got anything going on in your life that like is a creative endeavor that maybe you've like just started thinking about, Dayna, or like is in the works.
Yeah, so I've been some stuff recently has been like not really going the way that I thought it would, and I was like, I need to kind of find something else to channel my energy in. And I actually like wrote a book a few years ago and never did anything with it, and then the pandemic happened, and I was like, I don't have the like. And so I've been recently thinking, well, maybe I like go through the publishing process. Maybe I write something else, like trying to figure out like I want to put my some energy into something new, or like not new, but like return to something that like I felt like I'm missing.
I love that. And you're reminding me that we need to talk book publishing because I'm trying to write a book too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercury is retrograde right now. What that means is that it appears to go backwards, but what it really is doing is it's slowing down, so the Earth's speed is faster. And what usually happens during Mercury retrograde is we revisit old projects and finish them, and that's the most productive way to go about it. If you're trying to start a new project, you're going to get some blockages, It's not recommended to start something new, but it's really productive to finish old projects.
And Kendra asked, is it fiction? It is fiction. It's sort of a like there is fantasy elements to it. It like takes place in a different world, but it's like more grounded in reality. It was something that I started thinking up in my head when I got out of college, and it took me like years and years to even think that I could write it down, and then it took me years and years more to like actually sit down and write it. And I was like, this is never gonna finish. And then I did, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's so cool. So as you were talking, the card that got stuck to my hand was the 3 of Wands. So we've got another wand suit. So that's always something that I like to notice, like if we're getting repeats in the same suit. So 3s, we kind of think of that as like a magic number. There's like some kind of a balance that happens with 3s. And the traditional meaning behind this card is like you've put something out, you've created something out of 3 and you're kind of waiting for a return on your investment. So here you've got a person who's like looking out to sea and you're like, okay, maybe they're waiting for like a boat to come back or they're waiting to like get on a boat to go somewhere. So it kind of feels like that in between, like I've done the thing and now I'm just like waiting to see what's going to happen with it.
Yeah.
It's very cool. So for me to interpret Gemini is very intellectual. And you love to learn new things. You love to teach other things. And Scorpio is very much a detective. So with that combination, I like to view it as like you're a truth seeker. You seek the truth, like the ultimate truth, and that sometimes takes you to places you didn't expect to be. I really like that.
What's something that you've like decided to learn recently or have decided to maybe unlearn or relearn?
I've always been really interested in like psychology and people, so I'm always trying to like learn. And I think it's interesting the like combining the like learning new things but also being a detective. And I feel like when you learn people, like that's sort of like doing both. You kind of getting in there and figuring out like what makes someone tick. And
so I'm like imagining you right now with like a hat and a cigar and you're like, here, see, like I want to know more about you here, see?
Yeah.
Because suddenly you're in Chicago in the 30s. That's just how my brain works.
And sometimes I feel like Sherlock Holmes, where he'll like come out at the end with like all of these things that he noticed, and you'll be like, who noticed that? And I feel like I get that a lot. Like with people, I'll be like, hey, I don't know. Oh, because I've done that so many times where someone will be like, well, what do you think about so and so? And I'll like rattle off like all these insights, and they'll be like, you're right. I never thought of that. And so that's always something that I think is interesting and fun.
Cool. One of the biggest things that I noticed in your chart, which
you can bring that up.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, and I'm just like, oh,
that's perfect. I don't need to be in this. It's fine.
There she is.
Wait.
So your chart, there are like 5 different red lines going across, like diagonally. That's the opposition. So you have your second house, which is like the red one on the bottom. And then the yellow one with this Gemini sign on the top is the 8th house. So that's like the most concentrated areas of your life, which is your second house is your money, possession, income, food, shopping, things like that. And your 8th house is like share finances, like investments and debt, taxes, and also intimacy, death and rebirth. And with all of that energy there with the Chiron there and Mercury and North Node, I feel like you have probably gone through a lot of losses earlier in your life. So I liked the best way for me to explain like all these different planets and these signs is like planets are like actors. And I feel like this is a good crowd to like explain this to. Planets are like actors and the signs are the roles. So sometimes for certain actors, they're comfortable in certain roles and they're not comfortable in other roles. And Mercury right there, the yellow little glyph, it's really comfortable in Gemini. It's the sign that it rules. So you're very comfortable with talking and sharing information and digging for information and learning things. And, kind of like I said on the little poster, masterfully. But you have the Chiron and the North Node like next to it. So the conjunction is like they're like squeezing themselves, like trying to blend into this energy. And Chiron is a wounded healer. So it's sort of like there's a little bit of like pain that it holds on to as it tries to heal other people. And North Node is like this like blind person who's like trying to learn their way through life without like knowing what to do next. So I thought that's a really interesting placement because it's like you do know what you're talking about. You do know, your truth, but sometimes you feel like a lump in your throat because you feel like that you might be misunderstood in ways. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've always felt like, because like I was always really good in school and always like an overachiever, so I always felt like, I don't know, like that I couldn't be the person to like have issues and I couldn't struggle, and so like I was always the one that was like, you know, let me help other people, let me be helpful, let me succeed, let me give, but like sort of keep all of my stuff to myself, and kind of that feeling of like, well, if I tell people I'm struggling, or if I say I have needs and wants that aren't being met, then like that's going to push people away, or people aren't going to like think that I'm as awesome as I am, because like
but you're awesome.
You are.
You are awesome, and you know it. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, this is one of the things that I've been learning like over the last few years, like in my real adult times, is that like that actually like makes it better. Like people, like it's better to get close to people, and people appreciate you more when you can be like open and honest and be like, no, stuff sucks and it's hard, and it's a good thing to learn.
It's a good thing to learn. And what was really cool is that 2 cards like jumped out while you were talking. So the first card that jumped out is the Strength card. And this is part of the Major Arcana. So the Major Arcana, there's only 22 of them in the deck. And it's like kind of these overarching themes, like things that we don't really have control over in our day-to-day, but just kind of like affect us. And the Strength card is number 8 in the tarot. So you think about the 8 kind of being like an infinity loop. And this figure in the card has an infinity symbol over their head while they're kind of like looking out over some sort of expanse with a lion at their side. And so you can either possibly identify with the person who is like fearlessly standing next to a lion, or you can identify with the lion as being someone who's like kind of keeping themselves in check, in that strength of like, I know that I could destroy this person right next to me, but like I'm going to choose to hold it in. And I feel like that kind of echoes what Queen was talking about with like sort of the loss and the identity sort of just struggles potentially at, earlier in your life. It's like you had to develop probably a pretty thick skin and be like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I am who I am, and I am going to be this strong person. And the second card that came out, this has a personal connection for both of us. It's the 9 of Pentacles. And Pentacles is the suit of like material things. So you think about like earth, right? Like stability and wealth and abundance, whatever that means to you. And the imagery in this is really nice because it's a person who's like very clearly a gardener. There's someone who's been like tending to these plants like their entire life, and they're finally kind of reaping the benefits. And I really see this as a card of like the two of these together are like, I've been to the trials and tribulations. I know who the fuck I am, and I'm going to stand there and be like proudly proclaim like, this is my wealth. This is what I've gotten out of it. And like, doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Yeah. I definitely feel like that, like I've sort of in the last few years come really into myself, and just like going through like struggles more recently, and being able to be like, in times in the past where I may have said like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like, why, what did I do wrong? Or like doing the negative self-talk when things get hard. Like now I'm just like, no, I know like who I am. I know that I've done the best I can by me and by other people. And I know what I want. I know who I am, and I'm proud to be able to like step into that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the watchers right now and everyone else who has tuned into your live streams in the past is like, yeah, Dayna, like, come on, we all know that, right?
Well, I appreciate everyone that watches because I gained a lot of self-esteem during the pandemic to be like, oh, people want to come watch me, and my headbands were cute, so like I appreciate that.
Yeah, rock those cute headbands, rock those cute shirts, like yeah, because from here up is what's important on Zoom and on live streams.
No, and there's also, people that were, in my life during the pandemic that like helped a lot with, some other self-esteem. And I feel like even like, in very close recent times, still being able to like grow and be better because of, the people and the circumstances. So
this is a pretty cool space.
Yeah.
Right.
Another thing that I noticed about this
thank you, Shirley. Sorry.
particular placement with everything in the 8th house is that with the sun there as well and the Venus, it seems like you might have lived with or dealt with really dramatic adults growing up, that dramatic, the big energy and intense energy that you sort of tune into and like recognize and can call out manipulation really well. You can you see through people, you know, like the early signs of manipulation and like things like that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I do have a couple family members, and I swear that they didn't get along because they were the same person. But like, I always think that like I could be like, I got a master class in passive aggressiveness growing up, but like I won't use it because I've seen it and I hate it. But like if I wanted to, I could. And there definitely been times where I'm like, oh, I could be so passive aggressive right now and have like the best thing that I could do, but I'm like, that's not the person that I am. And it's just like, oh man, I should write a movie so that like at least I can get all these like terrible ideas out without having to actually do them.
You can do it on stage.
Wait, the movie would be like passive aggressive?
I don't know, like passive aggressive movie.
You just make a movie where some of the characters are just so passive aggressive against each other, and then just put all those ideas in there because I can't do them in real life because that's mean.
But isn't that like Real Housewives or something? And like I know a lot of people adore the Real Housewives. I personally don't get it. It's fine. But like a passive aggressive movie is like, it just sounds really scary to me.
Aww.
Like.
Thanks for all the love, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have all sorts of ideas where I'm like, I couldn't do this to anyone in real life, so it should go into a TV show or a movie. So at least it would be really interesting to see on screen.
Yeah.
That is such a great redirection of that energy because I have a lot of that energy. And I'm learning from you.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of cards jump out, but I'm going to talk about the first one because it actually poked out earlier and I like kind of tucked it away because I was like, we're not like doing this yet, but it really wants to say hello. So this is the Moon card. Ooh. The Moon card is number 18, also in the Major Arcana. So since there's only 22 of them, this is kind of getting towards the end of a cycle. This is really thinking about how we are in relationship with the world and the systems around us. And if you think about the moon goes through cycles, right? There's a time where she's full. There's times where she's dark. There's times where she's like, losing light, times where she's gaining light. And this is like really about kind of tapping in with that intuition and like our own personal cycles. But the other part I love about this is that there's like two female-looking figures who are completely like bucket-ass naked, like underneath the moon with these like wolf-ish looking masks on. And then there's also like a stream or a lake behind them, and it looks like something is coming out of it. So there's also this sense of like unbridled, we did have a lunar eclipse last week. Yeah. There's something here about like an unbridled energy and like wildness that may come in cycles with you. And you seem to react to the wolf mask. Is there something about that for you?
I just always felt like if there was an animal that I related to, it was the wolf. So I like that.
Because you love to howl?
Yes. No.
I want to hear your howl.
Yeah.
I like the concept of like you can be a lone wolf, but then you can also join a pack, and kind of that.
It's true.
I want to sing that song from
Hungry Like the Wolf.
Well, that one too. But the Zach Galifianakis, like, we are three wolves, like we're a part of the pack. I don't remember how it goes though.
I've never heard of that.
I feel like
fine. It's from The Hangover.
Oh, I didn't finish it. I fell asleep.
That's okay. You didn't miss much. They found the baby.
I feel like this card is telling me that Karina and I need to go get wolf masks and dance naked in the moon.
And dance naked under the full moon?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a thing.
I feel like if anybody would like be the right person to do that with, it'd be Karine.
All right, sweet. Well, Karine, we are going to enjoy living vicariously through your and Dayna's wildness.
She says she's in. Yes.
Sweet.
Yay. Cool. Well, the moon and the eclipse reminded me of the last week's eclipse right on your first house. You can bring it back up if you want. Okay. The first house was just like far, I guess, left. where like the moon glyph is there, and it was on your first house. So usually what that meant is like you let go of an idea of yourself, like a really big idea of yourself, or maybe like a shift in how you view yourself. Did that resonate with you? Like, or maybe this started even before the eclipse, because sometimes it does, going into, and you're like finally kind of purging that, like maybe something that you're emotionally attached to, that you're like, I just need to let go of this because I can't control it.
Yeah. Ooh, okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I just I've been working through some radical acceptance and just going through like kind of seeing myself like stepping. And I don't want to give away like, you know, this kind of personal, but just like kind of having stepped away from something and then sort of now having to like see myself through like, or I guess not seeing myself through that lens anymore and seeing myself more through like my own lens or lenses of other people, or just like, you know, seeing myself through like, well, if this isn't true about me anymore, like what's true about me now, or like, you know, how much of this do I carry forward and like still own, because I feel like there's a lot of positive things, but also sort of like, okay, if I had to let go and walk away for my own sake of like, you know, how, you know, what does that look like for me?
Yeah. Well, way to go. We got some tears on, you know, we're
bingo.
Always, you know,
This is my last bingo.
So the thing that I find is super interesting is that I feel like there's like a very sliver of like overlap between, well, no, actually, it's just that there's a huge overlap between comedy and trauma. I feel like a lot of what we do when we go into comedy is like process our trauma. I think a lot of people don't see it that way, but that's how I see it. But so this is interesting because I said a bunch of cards came out earlier and I only talked about the moon. I also got the Two of Swords and the Justice card. So Swords is the first time this has come out, and this is the suit of air, of intellect, of thought, of like patterns that have been like really ingrained in us. And the person in this card is blindfold, and they have two swords like crossed in front of their chest, like they're just in this defensive position, like, I don't care what you have to say to me, I am not listening to it. But then when you pair that with the Justice card, which is part of the major arcana, and it's the card number 11, it is more like rectifying something that maybe we hadn't seen before and now kind of needs to come into balance. Because I often think about like justice being blind with this blindfold here, and also like how we can be blind to sometimes our own thoughts and our own patterning. But there comes a point where we have to be like, no, this isn't true. Like, what is actually true to me, and how can I reconcile that with what I've previously thought? So it's interesting that that came out before, but then you talked about that. And I'm just, you know, really kind of honoring the fact that like this can be like deep stuff that comes up during these portals, we call them, like through the eclipse season, that you're like, why is it that like all this stuff is like weighing on me? And it's like, oh, right, because the planets are moving. Like, I know a lot of people don't believe in astrology, but like there's no way that a planet can do something on a macro level and it not affect you on a micro level. Like, we're made of water, you know, like there's a lot in us that has to respond to like our outside environments. And a lot of what we do with our thoughts is that we internalize them as fact until we like actually have to come up and like confront them and be like, oh, that isn't true. Like, if that's not true, then like, what is true for me?
Yeah, cool. I see the moon sextiling your Neptune. Neptune.
That just sounded really sexy. Sorry,
right?
I had to say that. The moon was sextiling your Neptune. Like, what's happening up there?
So the green lines, right? The green lines diagonally going down from the moon down to the, looks like a trident. That's Neptune. It gives you this like very idealistic, loving personality, super creative. And Neptune with moon tend to have aspects, tend to give the native like really good singing voice, really like interest in music. Just you get sometimes you immerse yourself in the musical experience, and that fills your soul.
Wow, that's crazy. Because, like, yeah, like my favorite art form is music. Like, I don't like make music, but I love it. I love to sing. I do consider myself a good singer. I think this is a really great time to tell people about the shows that we have this weekend.
I was about to say, we've heard you sing on stage both with sketch comedy and with love songs. So,
right.
Yeah.
Actually, this Friday at 8 o'clock is MRI, which the Masters of Rap Improv, so they will be improvising rap songs and scenes for you. At 9 o'clock is You the Musical, where they improv a musical, and I get a guest on You the Musical this month.
That's so exciting!
Yes. I'm so excited. It's my dream. So, dream come true. And then on Saturday I'm blanking on what's happening at 8 o'clock, but at 9 o'clock, I think it's Shortcuts. And then at 9 o'clock is ACL. So come check us out if you're in the area. We've got a fun lineup.
Yeah, super fun. So what is it that you love about singing, Dayna?
I've been doing it ever since I was a kid. I used to have like a fear of singing in public. I was a very shy child. So like, and then, but I don't know. I just love it. Like when I'm sad or down, like it's a really great adrenaline rush. I mean, the fact that I can sing makes it more fun to do it because I like what comes out of my mouth. I saw this meme and they were like, "Oh, may the next Disney princess be an alto."
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, I don't relate to that. Sorry."
Oh well. Okay, that's fine.
You don't relate. Okay then.
No. But for those of you that do, they definitely should change the range.
Mm-hmm.
I loved in Encanto how the one sister, was it Luisa? Hers was in like such a lower register. I was like,
surface
so
pressure.
many people can sing this now.
I know, and I super relate to that song too. So
Yeah.
On repeat for a while.
So as you were talking, the High Priestess came out. You're getting a lot of major Arcana cards, which is cool because I think that kind of means that you're reassessing some like big things in your life, or big things in your life are kind of like making themselves known to you, and you're like, God damn it, I got to deal with this. But the High Priestess I love because they're number 2 in the major Arcana, so pretty early in the journey. And the High Priestess is like the knowledge and like the self not the self-care queen, but like the self-knowing and the like actualization queen. So this person is depicted with like a laptop on their lap. They've got a moon kind of under their pretty kick-ass heels. They've got a drape behind them with pomegranates on it, and then they're kind of between like a white and black column here. So the High Priestess is kind of someone who's like, I'm not going to ascribe to an either or situation. I'm going to sit myself like in the middle, and I'm going to really dig into like what I know about it and what I believe to be true, and I'm going to leave behind all of the rest. Pomegranates are usually kind of equated with like fertility and like growth as well. So like this is kind of an ongoing practice of like, and again, if we think about the moon being in a cyclical situation, like this is probably a cycle that you're going to keep going through, where you're like, what is actually serving me in terms of like who I am and who I want to be, and then how can I come down on it in a way that's like not going to be like a binary like either or, but you can kind of like exist in this both and space.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot because I'm definitely a big fan of like, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, or like, people tend to want to make things easy and binary, and I enjoy seeing the middle ground and the complexities in there, and like understanding. And I think part of a lot of this also comes down to just like my experience with the people of being like, you can do something unkind or hurtful, but still like also be deserving of empathy and love, and being able to like approach things from a holistic point of like I'm going to hold you accountable, but I'm also going to like give you love, and kind of understanding that like, multiple things can be true at once, and trying to figure out that balance of like, how do I find, the space to exist, even with in all the crazy thoughts of
that's a
what's going on.
superpower. And that is, I mean, finding that nuance, I think a lot of people are like, fuck it, it's easier to just be on one side or the other. But like when you exist in that gray area, it can be a little messier, and people don't like messy. But it seems like you're embracing the mess.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when I get really sad or angry, you can get your emotions can be like, ah.
Okay, so what do you do when you're angry? What's your like? Do you like punch something? Do you like scream into a pillow? Do you scream into the void? Like what feels good?
I have been known to scream into the void, but I'm really into loud music. Like I like some like post-hardcore, metalcore, metal music. So just finding like a really loud song that really just like talks about what I'm feeling, and then just like turn it up really loud and just let that sort of wear me out.
That's awesome. I'm also imagining you singing like your pretty Disney princess voice to a metal song.
Oh my God.
And I just like that juxtaposition.
There are some very loud, angry songs that I love to sing. Some of them things that are probably a little scary, you know, but it's something I enjoy.
Cool. Let me see what else I see in it. Were you more susceptible to suggestions? And I don't think that's how I should word it. Because you're so fast and energetic and active, but also very super tuned into people's emotions, that sometimes that being tuned in,
words are hard.
I know words.
Yeah.
You know words. Okay. I think I know words.
Yeah, you know a lot of words.
To get it well, easily inspired, but also could be influenced to, and this could be a positive or a negative thing, to do things that you're not quite ready for, but sometimes that turns out to be like the best things in life. Best things in life are unexpected, but like that kind of like sensationalization can, you're just like, you're into intensity, that you follow the intensity. I guess that's how I should put it. There it is.
That kind of makes me think of a few different things. Like I've always been sort of like a people pleaser, so like I don't like to say no. So like if someone wants to do something, as long as it's not like morally offensive to me, like there's a certain point where I'm like, that's moral, I won't do it. But if it's sort of like I'm on the fence or I don't really have an opinion, I'm definitely down to like, well, you have an opinion and I want you to be happy and I don't care, so I'm just going to do what you want to do. I definitely consider myself to be an empath, so like people's emotional energy can impact me. I've definitely found, and I guess this kind of goes back to the people pleaser, but like if I'm like with someone that I care a lot about and like doing something, I might just like follow along with what they're doing, even if it like isn't what I would prefer to do, just because like they're doing it and I want to be involved in that space, or like their energy is like up and I'll be like, well, I want to go do the fun thing because the person I like is there, even though it's like not really my jam, and sort of get swept away in that kind of energy.
That just sounds like being a nice person, a nice friend, being like, oh hey, like it's not my thing, but like I'll support it because you like it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as you were talking, the Five of Cups came out, and I think this is the first Cups we've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
So Cups is the suit of water. So we think about kind of emotions and relationships, and this on the surface kind of looks like a sad card. Like there's this figure who's all in black and their head's kind of down and they're looking over these 3 spilled cups, and then like a cityscape in the background, and behind them are these 2 cups that are still upright. And a lot of times people think that this card is like one of like grief and disappointment, but I kind of see it as like a glass half full kind of situation where you might like give room for like, that thing really sucked, or, that wasn't really my jam, or I didn't really, connect in a way that I wanted to. But like here, I've still got like a couple things that I can look forward to, and a couple things that are like sustaining me as I go, maybe back on this bridge back towards civilization. So there might be something here kind of about like retreating within yourself to like grieve what has, maybe been lost or just not been your favorite thing, but then being like, all right, I'm going to like pick myself back up by the bootstraps and like see these two upright cups and be like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. I definitely feel like I've sort of been grieving a loss in a way lately, but like looking at it as like, it sucks. And I feel like I'm trying to think of what, like, being sad and sort of feeling like, okay, what do I do now? Or like, is this going to get resolved or not? Am I sort of stuck on this new path, or is it going to like, veer back around? But definitely knowing that like the situations where I think I mentioned this in the past where I felt like I might have been harder on myself or been, more blaming myself or, taking accountability for things that I shouldn't. I really feel like I see strength, and I see strength that like I even pulled from the situation that's like now causing me trouble, because I'm like, well, I saw that growth and I'm using that growth now to like take me forward, and like I'm happy with who I've been, like, and being able to stand up for myself and being able to like be able to have like empathy while also having self-empowerment at the same time. So feeling like, I'm moving. I at least I have positive things to take away, even if, that's all I get to take away, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes like the positive is not like the easiest thing to grasp onto, but when you're going through these cycles of change, you're like, all right, well, I gotta find something. And It sounds like you're the type of person who like is gonna find whatever that something is. And I'm sure a lot of it comes from like being in this community and like having all these outlets for your singing, for your creativity, for your people, connectedness. It's very clear that you have a very highly regarded spot in this space.
So Kendra said something interesting. She said basically that I changed my opinion based on the energy in the room. And one of the things that I know is that like I consider myself to have kind of a complex personality and a lot of different sides to me, and I tend to show different bits and pieces at different points to different people depending on like what resonates with them. Like there'll be certain aspects of my personality that only come out like with certain people, and then as you get to know me more, you get to see all the different sides, and there are probably not a lot of people that get to see a lot of the different aspects. And I don't see it as being like fake or putting on a show. I just see it as like there's so much to show you. I'm going to show you what makes the most sense to communicate, to like connect with you, and then the rest of the stuff gets to like it's like when you're doing a play, right? The main characters get to come up front, and you might change who the main actors are in a movie, and all the supporting guys are still there. They're just playing a smaller role, I guess.
Yeah, I think Gemini is one of the most underappreciated signs of the zodiac. Like you get a lot of hate for it because they call you like we have multiple personalities. You're just like
two-faced.
And what you're really doing, you're just social, and you just do exactly what you're explaining earlier is you're showing different sides to you, and that's great. Like that's a mutable energy. It's mutable air. I like to say Geminis are like summer winds. Like you're flowy, you're fleeting, you're sometimes you can be stirring, and sometimes you can be revitalizing. There's just so many sides to you that's it's lovely, and those who are lucky enough to to experience all the different sides, those are who you'd consider a keeper, especially with a Scorpio moon, when you have a hard time trusting people, and you're like, I don't know if I want to show this side of you yet, so I'm just gonna be this other person, which is still very lovable and very fun. I think we're lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. But you definitely hit on. Oh yeah, and Kendra's saying for the record that she didn't mean in a negative sense, but I didn't think she did either. I just know that like from other conversations I've had with other people, like
You're like a chameleon. That's what I
Yeah.
kind of got. It's like you will kind of adapt in this situation, so you're protected still.
Yeah. And especially where, like, to me, like, truth is very important to me. And so, like I want to be an authentic person. I want to be a truthful person. I just know that, like, I can't be 100% myself ever. You know, like, there's too much to be 100% all the time. So, like, I have to pick and choose what parts to be when and how often, and, you know, and who gets to see that spectrum. And
well, I think the too muchness is exactly right because I think that, like, we're our own worst enemy when it comes to that. Like, we'll be like, oh, I can't, like, you know, people are gonna think this, and it's like, fuck them. That's what I think anyway.
Well, I feel like this ties into with what you said earlier about how you approach people who've made mistakes, and you hold them accountable, you know, but you also have compassion for them. And one of the hardest things to do is to do the same thing for yourself. Is to, like, hold yourself accountable for the things that, you know, that your shortcomings, or even, like, the things that when you take accountability for something you shouldn't have, even then, you know, having compassion for that, but also, like, empower yourself to make better decisions next time.
So I had a bunch of cards just jump out, one of which is the King of Swords. And you said very specifically, like, you like the truth. This is, like, the ultimate truth bringer. They are, like, you know, if you think of a king, they're someone who is, like, ruling. They've got authority. They've got stability. And then we talked about swords earlier as being, like, thoughts and air and, like, intellect and just mental processes. So this is someone who's, like, got their shit down. Like, they've got their thoughts in check and they are not going to compromise them. You also got the Fool, which I kind of love this juxtaposition side by side, because the Fool is the very first card. It's the 0 card in the major arcana. So it's, like, kind of a not card, but it's also, like, everyone is the fool, like, their entire lives. You're just kind of, like, going from one thing to the next, and this person is, like, has, like, their headphones on, and there's a little puppy behind them who's like, no, don't jump off the ledge, but they're like, I'm just gonna go. So there's, like, a bit of a carefree kind of, like, spontaneity to the Fool, in addition to, like, the groundedness of, like, I am also going to be in control of my thoughts. And the last card that came out was the 3 of Swords. And the 3 of Swords, again, on the surface looks like a very, like, sad, scary imagery. It's like 3 swords that are in a heart that's bleeding black blood. Which is like, okay, what's happening here? But, like, and a lot of people think that this is a card of, like, self-betrayal. But with the 3 of these together, I'm kind of seeing, like, an evolution of, like, maybe at some point there was this, like, all right, you know, this is some old wounding, some old thoughts that I need to just get rid of, jump off into a new way of being, and then end up where I am, like, the master of my thoughts.
I like that.
I just realized something, because we're talking about the truth seeker. Your birthday theme is murder mystery.
Yes.
And I thought that's so perfect.
Detective!
Yeah. I mean, it's so, it just clicked in my brain. It's like I was going to ask you if you like true crimes, and then, because a lot of people with Scorpio placements, they love true crime stuff and, you know, all the detective shows and things like that. And then with the Gemini aspect, it's more like fun, you know, parties. So, like, this is, like, the perfect combination of the Gemini and the Scorpio energy, is this murder mystery Margaritaville.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I feel that I keep meaning to tell my best friend, because we have done these in the past and I haven't done one with the Comedy Spot, and I kept meaning to tell them, oh, I'm doing one with the Comedy Spot, so this might be how they find out.
Oh, no.
That's okay. I'm sure they don't mind. I just thought it would be fun to, since we have access to a backyard, to do something like this with a big group of people. So I'm excited.
So are you writing the murder mystery?
No, there's as I use the Night of Mystery. They're a website and they write them, and so you get, like, depending on how many people you have, depends on which version you buy, and then you get predefined characters. So you assign everyone a character, and beforehand they find out who they are, and then during the first round you get a packet of information, and it says, like, tell, you know, Bob this and tell Mary that. And then you have to go around the party and share information, and people will come up to you and you learn more about your character. And then somebody dies, and then somebody finds out they're the murderer. And then the second round, you get another packet, which makes you look even more more like you killed someone, and then you're trying to like hide information and share other people's information. So the characters are crazy, and the stuff that happens to them is crazy.
That sounds hilarious. I was a part of a murder mystery like that. And I won't say where or with which company, because I ended up being the murderer, but like I didn't know until they announced it at the very end. Like I had the packet, I did all the things, I collected it, and then suddenly it was like, and the murderer is, and I was like, it's me? Like, shouldn't I have known that at some point?
It's
like
in the back.
my packet?
Yeah. I've done some box ones with my friends where they don't tell you who did it, but this company does, and the murder actually happens like live. Some of them have the murder actually happen like live at the party, so you find out in your packet, oh, you got murdered, and you have to fake your death at some point.
I mean, that's like such an improv thing to do. Like we have all played games where we have died at very, very dramatic deaths.
Yeah.
I figured it'd be a fun group to get a bunch of performer comedians to do.
You know, people will show up in costume. I think about like your Pinot Noir group and how everyone just like went balls to the wall with their costumes for that too.
Oh, I love that. I love that group.
Okay.
Very cool.
So is there any last wrap up or anything we got?
And is there anything you want to know, Dayna?
Yeah.
Anything that hasn't come up that you're like, ooh, I was hoping that we'd talk about this.
Well, I want to fall in love.
Oh.
But I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'm not having any luck in the online dating department. But
online dating sucks, so
yeah,
totally.
We feel you there. And that might not be the place where you find your special someone, but I'll defer to the astrologer here, and then I'll see what the cards say as she's looking up that.
But to have like a specific timeline, I'm gonna have to do more, and that would take a lot of time. So I'm just gonna look just generally your chart, and your 7th house is empty. That doesn't mean like it's a bad thing, like you're never gonna fall in love.
Oh no,
it doesn't mean that, she said.
It doesn't. But I mean, it's actually more straightforward. I like houses that are empty because you don't have a lot of a lot of details in it. But it's ruled by it's in Taurus. By the way, if you're looking for people, like Taurus placements are really good for you.
Hey, Dayna.
I'm just saying.
I'm already
Taurus.
taken, but yeah. You can have a platonic love. Sorry, on the mic.
Yeah, I hope I didn't just...
Does that mean like someone that was born in Taurus, or?
Not necessarily. They can have Venus in Taurus. They can have Sun. They can have the Moon in Taurus. There's different placements that you can, they can have the rising in Taurus. Actually, that's like the best combo for you. But Venus, which rules the 7th house, is in the 8th house. It's conjunct the Sun. There's like for you, online dating might not be a thing because intimacy is super important. For this to even flourish, like I feel like you sort of in the process of you finding yourself and like finding your truth, you would find this person, but to look up for them on a surface level, it's probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
And what also came out is the Queen of Cups. And I love this card for this conversation because the Queen, I mean, this is like double water. So queens are generally like receptive caregivers, nurturers, and cups is the suit of emotions. And what I like about the imagery here is that this queen is like on a throne with their feet like in the water, and they're holding a cup like very delicately, like this is the most precious thing in the world. And I always think about this person either deciding like I'm gonna hold on to that and keep that precious for myself, or if I choose to give it to you, like you are one lucky son of a bitch, and like I'm gonna trust you with this because you're gonna follow that intuition to say like this is okay for me to give this away, but you covet it in a way that's like really, really important to be like, I don't just give this to anyone. Like this is someone who I need to, I mean, we talked about trust before, and like you being such an open person, you get to decide like, all right, do I discern that this person like is a phony? If so, like you don't get to keep this. But like if you are someone who like I feel like I can trust and have a connection with, like here, this is precious to me and I will offer it to you. So this feels like kind of a not like an aspirational card, but like just one to kind of keep in the back of your mind. It's like, you know, it's not just anyone who gets to have your heart, and you get to really choose that.
Well, I know that like it takes a long time for me to even decide that like I'm interested in someone. Like there's a process, and it's a lot of like, I think a lot of it's intellectual. I realize that like, I don't know if I necessarily identify as like sapiosexual, but I definitely am like, you need to pique my brain first before anything else. And if I'm like, and if anything makes me go, I'm not interested. Like it takes a lot of time and a lot of like digging and a lot of like getting to know someone and like spending time and like analyzing before I'm able to say, okay, I'm willing to like even like entertain the idea of being interested, you know. So there isn't a very long list of people that I've considered. Like there's been some like really fast like, no, thank you. Like, be like, you're cute, but no.
Yeah, cuteness is like just the, you know,
no, it's
the
so
cherry on top.
I always like to joke that like, oh, if I find you attractive, that just means I'm going to rule you out faster.
I love that. I think that's like the best way to go. I was actually just looking back because I was like, man, we got such a variety of cards. So what's super interesting is that you got 5 major Arcana cards. And just to kind of recap them, they were the Fool, the High Priestess, Strength, Justice, and the Moon. Like these are huge themes, like lots of stuff that's coming up about like who you are and how you're approaching things. And then the one that you had the next most of was the Swords, which you just mentioned, like sort of the intellectual piece is like really important to you in terms of like how you connect with people and yourself and stuff. So I'm just seeing like, I don't know, I feel like you've got some really exciting things that you're currently working through, and that can only mean that you're going to eventually like be in spaces where you're going to have like-minded individuals that you can connect with like on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And hopefully then like love will come soon thereafter.
Yay, I like it. Okay, well, before we say goodbye, is there anything that the two of you want to plug or want to talk about?
Our Right Stuff show is this Thursday at 8 p.m. Please come out and join us.
That's the last time that we know for sure that we're going to be doing the right stuff. If it continues in an iteration, it might be in a cage match or something. But yeah, we're going to see. It's been a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. Is there any other? Oh, and our Mercury retrograde Gemini show is going to be June 4th. That's our guest. Can we announce that? Is Graciela.
Oh, fun.
Super excited to have her. And we might also have a different co-host, so stay tuned.
Yeah, they kicked me out because I'm not allowed anymore. I don't know. No, I have a conflict, so I can't be there. So we're excited to see what iteration this is going to take. Yeah. It kind of feels appropriate for a Gemini show,
right?
To be like, we're going to do something a little different.
Yeah, very much. And I mean, I have an idea that we might have a second guest because Gemini's twin, so we could have 2. Who knows? Come out and see.
I think, Quid, you had something that you wanted to plug as well?
Oh yes. My astrology account is truth.told.early. I post, transit stuff. I have some art stuff on there. I have fun with like, sometimes I make memes. I love playing around with astrology and, please come join me.
Yeah, and I'll just end on this. We also have a podcast together called Celestial Small Talk, which you can find on all your major podcast networks, and we're on Instagram. And it's just basically us doing this with guests from all over the country, and it's pretty awesome. So if you're ever interested in hearing more from the two of us, that is a good place to do it, or coming to see us live.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here today. This is super fun. I mean, selfishly, I thought this was a blast. I hope everyone in the audience had a good time, too.
And if you didn't, screw you. Just kidding.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.